Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Bava Metzia daf Ayin Beis. We're going to begin on Ayin Beis and Badal, the third line from the top. Tana Rabbanan. Yisrael shalav moismin hanachri beribus. So you have a Yisrael that borrowed money from a nachri with ribus. Now that's perfectly allowed. You are allowed to borrow money with interest, even though you're a yid, because you're borrowing it from the malva who's not Jewish, and that's okay. You're allowed to borrow or lend as long as one of the two parties is a nachri. Now, what ended up happening over here is after a little bit of time, what you did was you put everything together. In other words, they wrote a new shtar for the total amount of the principal and interest as a total debt with no additional interest. So, because of that, it almost now becomes like a new loan. And therefore, because of that, it says as follows. What happens if this Nachri, who was the Malva, who's the one who lent you this money with interest, which he was allowed to, but now he converted. And now that he converted, he's not allowed to charge interest anymore. Now, what he did before he converted was perfectly fine, because he wasn't Jewish, he was allowed to charge interest. Now, the question is, now that he has this document, this new document, is he able to collect the ribis? So it says like this: if, let's say, before he converted, they wrote this document, then govis a ribis. Then he's allowed to collect the ribis. And Rashi says the mishas sekifa, but at the time that this new document was written, havi kigavui. It was like the original one was already collected, and therefore he's allowed to collect based on this new document. If let's say the second document only came about after the conversion, so therefore the original loan was beribus, then govis a keren and govis a ribus. He can only collect the money that he borrowed, that he lent out, but he cannot. Not the ribs. Okay. So let's say the other way around too. It's very interesting. The case is a little bit different, as we're going to see in a second, because here the borrower is the nachri, but again, they wrote a new shtar for the total amount of the principal and interest as a total debt with no additional interest. V'niskayer, and then this man converts. Now, he was the borrower. Now, the question is, does the borrower who now converted, does he still have to pay back the interest, or maybe he doesn't have to pay back the interest anymore? So, if before he converted this was written, then govis a keren v'govis a ribis, so he has to pay back the interest. However, if he had already converted first, then govis a keren v'govis a ribis. He no longer has to pay the back the ribis. So listen to this amazing shot. Rabbi Yosi Omer, if you have a nachri who is the borrower, and then he converts, the din is he has to still pay back the ribis. It doesn't make any difference. He still has to pay it back. So Omer Rabba, Omer Rav Chisda, Omer Rav Huna, halacha Rabbi Yosi. Halacha is actually like Rabbi Yosi, that he still has to pay back the ribis, this borrower who converted. So Omer Rava, my time Rabbi Yosi. Why would he say this? Well, Chayra, now that he's a yid, she shouldn't have to pay the ribis. So unbelievable pshat. Because people otherwise say he only converted in order to be pater from paying ribis, and therefore because of that he still has to pay the ribis. So the question is, what do you mean? How can he still pay the ribis? So the Shita Metzia says that this is only referring to a din of ribis, which is only the Rabbanon, and therefore for that reason, where the Chachamim had the ability to be makel. Tana Rabbanon. Shtar shekasabo ribis. So you have a shtar that you wrote this, that you owe me money, and you also have to, there's interest. Now he did lend him money. Now meikar hadin, if I lend you money, you have to pay me back the money that you borrowed from me. But since the document also mentions ribis, Rabbi Meir says it's going to be a kanas, and this person, not only can he not collect the ribis, which is wrong, but he can't even collect the keren, the principal, which is the permissible part of the loan. No, he can still get his keren. So that the permissible part of the get, which is the keren, will kanas and say you don't get that either. Okay, stop there for 1 second, and let's look at question 7. Nachri shaloiva mois Yisrael beribis v'nisgayer. So he borrowed money, then he converted. Be'ez oifen shar Yisrael ligvois ribis. When can Yisrael collect the ribis from this now convert? Aliv the Tanakam aliv Rav Yosi umay tamayu. So according to Rav Yosi, Pashit, you never can. Right? It doesn't make any difference, because otherwise people are going to say he only converted so he didn't have to pay the interest. Tanakama says it depends. B'zakvan alaba milva, if there was this new loan that was written before he converted, then the loan doesn't mention ribis, so then he does have to pay. The mishasa kifa havi kagavui. Okay. Because it's considered, again, it's like it was collected and now it's like a new loan without ribis. Tanan Hassel. So Gemara continues. Shtari chayiv hamukdamin psuin. When it comes to a shtar chayiv, you owe money, and it's written mukdamim, as Rashi says, lemilva. So it gives, the document has the wrong date on it. It's possible. Why? Because the boy lemitra of lekuchos mizman akasaboy. Because when you have a document which says that you owe money, so there is a shibud on, for example, the land of the borrower based on the time of the loan. So if I purchased the borrower's land and only later on did this guy take out a $1 million loan, so he can't, there's no lien on my property, on this property, because I bought the property before the loan. So that's the problem, because what if the shtar was written mukdam before the actual time, and then we adain lo hilva, the loan didn't take place. Shtar lekuchos koidem lemilva, v'zem moitzi shtara b'hu koidem b'hu sheker. Right, you're going to end up producing this document, which is going to give the impression that really the loan took place before the selling of the land, and you'll end up taking this property improperly from this guy. So that's why shtar mukdam is psul. V'amucharim ksherim. However, if it's a mu'uchar shtar, then it's kosher, because what's the problem, right? If the loan was in September but you wrote November, so you're not going to be able to collect any land that was sold before September or even before November. So then there's not really any concern that the lekuchos are going to end up losing out. So mukdamim amay psuin. Why do we say shtar mukdam is possible? He granted the logava mizman rishain nigma mizman sheni. Okay, fine. I understand you can't collect from the first time. Collect from the second time, says Rashi. Deika deloi masika daita ladakti kolkach mizman halva loy mulmalva shtarcha mukdam umechi koidim halvatecha. So, why it seems like it's a kanas on some sort. So why are we passing the whole shtar? Right? It's possible that really mizman sheni, we should at least allow it to work from that point. So Amar Rav Shimon Lakish b'machlokas shnui Rav Meir he is like the sheet of Rav Meir that he will kanas hatera mishum isura. Rav Yochanan Amar nafil tem Rabbanan. So the Rabbanan, who normally say that we're not going to be kanasing hatera mishum isura, so what's the problem with the shtar mukdam? The concern is you may end up collecting it from the earlier time, and that's the problem. And therefore, again, a person may not know, even though, again, there may be a Zman Sheni, but you may end up collecting it from the Zman Rishon, which was improperly written. And therefore, it's a problem according to them. Okay. All right, let's continue. Hahu Gavra Damashkin Le Pardesil Chavre So you had a person who gave over his collateral, a vineyard, to his friend, and achot tlashni, and the guy was using it, eating it for 3 years, which perhaps could constitute that it's his. Armalei said, if you sell me this field to me, I really want this field. I've been using it for a few years, so sell it to me. And if you sell it to me, then good. We'll call it a day. However, the elo, but if you don't sell it to me, keshivna l'shtar mashkanta, I'm going to hide the shtar. Yamin l'kucha hi biyadi, and I'm going to say I bought it. And after all, I have shnei chazaka, so people are going to end up saying it's okay. It says Rashi, v'avad shtar mechira. You can say I lost my shtar. V'avad mekoy chazaka shel gim hashanim. The kol yihai lo metzinu is dahir b'shtar. As the more in Bava Basra, which we'll get to hopefully soon, Cheskel Savatim, it talks about that all person only holds onto a shtar for 3 years, and afterwards a person discards potentially their shtar. So therefore, this is his tainum. So, Azul, so he went, Kam Achne with no katan. So he was makna this field to his small child, Bahadur Zamnin Hile, and then afterwards, this is the owner of the vineyard, he went and gave to his child this field as a gift, and he did it in front of witnesses. He's giving it to his kid. Again, the reason why is because he didn't want there to be any possibility of anyone saying that the mechira was a mechira. V'hadar zav nihile. Then he ended up selling it to this guy who was making this threat. Now, zvina v'adol havizvine. Certainly, it's not a sale, because after all, it's not his anymore, because he gave it to his child already. So Zuzi Kimilva B'shtar Damu V'gava Menachas Mishmanim. The question is, the money that was he's going to be claiming from it, is it considered to be a milva b'shtar, and therefore he can collect from the chasam mishubadim? Therefore he can come and collect from encumbered properties. O dilma kimilva pen damu hinagam the chasam mishubadim. So Amrulei Abaye v'lav hainu de Rabbi Asi, the Rav Asi. This seems to be like Rav Asi as we continue to Ayin Beis Mud Beis. Moide b'shtar shekasmi and tzarich l'kaimai. So after the borrower admits that in fact this was a valid shtar, then you don't need to validate it. And therefore you can collect from the chas mishubadim. Says Rashi, once he validates the shtar, once the lova says it's good, that's it. Here he admits that he sold it to him, b'achrayis. Ve'im hashtar batal le'inyan ha'machira ne'shtar matana shekadmu. If you already have a shtar which says it was given as a gift before this sale, lo batal le'inyan achrayis. That's not going to affect the din of achrayis, that you still have to reimburse the person for it. Okay. Normally, Rabbi, mi dami. What do you mean? How can you compare to hasam nitan li kasev? Hachan lo nitan li kasev. One was not meant to be written over. It says Rashi, Lachar shenastu kvar matana. Once you already gave it as a gift, that's it. So you don't. The other document shouldn't have been written. So Yosim Ravina Karmel Hashmai Sasamur Ravina Lameimar El Hadiyam Rav Yochanan Gazer Shem Yigvam Mizman Rishain. Maybe you end up collecting from the earlier one. So Neimalu Nitan Likasev. Why don't you just say the same taina that it wasn't supposed to be written? Over there, Nihidolo Nitan Likasim Mizman Risha. Nobody Lizman Likasim Mizman Sheni. It was a star muktam. It shouldn't have been written before, but still was meant to be written down, just at a later date. Hacha looked in the case of klal. This document wasn't meant to be written at all. Eloha desanya was shvach karkais ketzad. How do we understand when it comes to shvach karkais, to the improvements of land? Harishigazel son of a person stole a field from his friend. And he sold the field to someone else. He stole it and then sold it. The shbicha, and that lokeach, who again he didn't know he bought it from a thief, improved the field. V'harihi yotzmatachas jada, was taken out of his hands. Kashu gaiva is a keren mechas mishubadim. So he can collect the keren from encumbered properties. The shvach gam nechas b'nei chayrin. However, the shvach he can only collect from b'nei chayrin, because shvach, again, who says that a person who would be buying this land would know about this. Rashi says tikkun ha'olam. It's considered to be a tikkun olam of the lokuchos. The lokuchos yechon lizahir b'davar she'ein lo kitzba. It's something which does not have a set amount, which is like an endless supply of money. So, like shvach and peros. So that's something in which you cannot collect except from b'nei chayrin. Nemo l'nita lekasik. So why don't you say the same taina? Says Rashi. Shtar mechir izeh. This document for sale should not have been lekasik. Shahari gazul haisa. It was a stolen property, so the bill of sale is really void. Ubatal hashtar yachraya shabo. You might go become nechas mishabadim. Why should you be able to collect nechas mishabadim? It's not nitin likasib because it was a stolen property. So hachi hashta hasam ilmadim nichale deloy nikri gazlana. So one shot, as we saw way early in this masechta, is that it's possible that he's going to want to reimburse this lokech so that no one will call him a thief, or that he should be considered to be trustworthy. If he's going to want to appease the person. He was just trying to push off this guy who was trying to basically take this field. Okay. I think he's actually going to be Mekayim the Shtar. It says Rashi, Bitmia. So again, when it came to that other star of Shtar Mechira, since he wrote it already to his son, so the second one was not considered to be written for the sake of being written. However, over here, even though it's true, a Gazlan who sold the field, that star is also not really meant to be written, but he is still going to wish to be mafayes when it comes to because he should not be called a Gazlan, and he should also be considered to be trustworthy. Fine. However, the other guy who gave the field as a gift to his kid, he's just trying to distance himself from this entire matter. Okay, so if you look in Rashi, Nichale de Likri Gazla, Adam Shemachar Sadik Gazula, a person who sold a stolen field to his friend, Machzer, which he didn't know about it, Machazer al Balam Harishainim, he goes to the original person, V'leichin mehen, and it will take it from him, L'hamid biyad alikeach ki heichad l'liknei Gazla. He doesn't want to be called a thief, or so he should be considered to be trustworthy. Okay. All right, let's see maybe another question over here. Where do we find? Let's see. Yeah, where do we find? That you still cannot collect from the chas mishubadim, because it's, as we see up top, so Rabbi says, "Midami hasam nitin lekasev, hacha lo nitin lekasev." Our case was not meant for it to be given as a sale, because as we saw, he was kind of stuck, and that's the reason why he went and he gave the field with Adam to his son, and then afterwards he wrote this guy a star, so that star is nothing, right? And therefore, for that reason, even though he was validating the star, he doesn't have the kayach to collect from the chas mishubadim. Says, let's see what he writes. Keep going. Shekasav star bal karcha. You basically wrote it by force, like the story where the guy was going to either say, "Sell me your field," or "I'm just going to pretend there was a chazaka on it," and therefore you're going to be stuck. So that was the whole situation. He wrote it just to push him off. So So in that situation, you don't collect from mishubadim. Okay, so that's question 9. All right. Great. Let's see. Question TA28. Hanaisin karka b'matana liachar mikan machra hanaisin liachar b'achrayis heim goyim nechas mishabadim umadua, which is our case. So he said, Ain is poshit. No, Ain goyim. You don't collect nechas mishabadim. Do nitan likasim, because it was not a star that was to be written. So therefore, because of that, the din is that you cannot collect from the chas mishabadim from that. Okay. Let's see. Question TB29. Shtar chayv mukdam sulin matam doi gabam izman sheni. So why not? So let's get this down. This is TA29. And I wrote beautiful. Gezerah shemagam gabam izman rishon, or shol yachlifu ben shtar l'shtar. No, that's not exactly the right answer. The other answer is as a kenas, which is like the sheet of Rab Meir. So he said it's b'machlok shnuya Rab Meir he. So that is TB29. TB29 Ayin Beis Aleph. Okay. Weiter. Let's see the next Mishnah. Says the Masnisin, Ein poiskin alapetis ad sheyetze hashar. So a person cannot prepay for produce before the market price is established. And the reason for that is it appears to be ribis, because if the price increases, and again, you already gave this guy money, and then all of a sudden, because of the price increases of the fruit, so all of a sudden it looks like there was ribis involved. Yatza shar poiskin. However, if we already have a price that's established in the market, then you could prepay. We said this numerous times, because once he has the money, so even though it's true, he may not have it, but the other one does. In other words, he could always go and buy produce. Let's say the person has a silo. However, the price, the market price hasn't been established, but he already harvested everything. So the din is poisik imo al gadish. You could establish the marketing price for this gadish, says Rashi, kivan dieshlo, because he has this grain in kan ribis dimachshav hu kanilo. The fact that he has the grain, so it's, even though it's true he prepaid it, but the truth is he could take his grain now because it's here. Yal ha'avit shel avanim. Same when it comes to a very large kli, which is used for grapes. Yal ha'maton shel zaysim, or again a large kli which contains olives. Yal ha'beitzim shel yoitzer, and also like a ball of pottery. V'al hatzid, when it comes to lime, mishikoi bakivshon. Once it gets fired up in the oven, so it's like it's ready. That's considered to be like it's finished. Upaisiki al hazevel, and you could also prepay the produce for zevel. Kol yemos hashana, all year round. You're allowed to do that as well. Rabbi Yossi Omer ein poiskin al zevel. You cannot do this prepayment for fertilizer. Elim kin haisel zevel ba'ashba, unless there's already zevel in the garbage heap. Chachamim matirin, they're lenient when it comes to this. Upaisik imo b'shar hagavoa, and you can prepay b'shar hagavoa, which we'll discuss exactly what that means. As Rashi, im yivchos hashar, if the market is lower mamashahu akshav than what it is now, titin le kashar hazoil, then give me the lower one, shar hagavoa hainu bezol, at a lower price. Shenaisin in Paris harbi b'damawatim, a lot of fruit for a small amount, okay, of money. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Afapi Shlo Pasuk Ima B'Shar HaGavoa Yochel Omer Tain Li Kazeh, give me this, O Tain Li Es Moisa, give me my money. Says Omer Avasi Omer Rabbi Yochanan in the Poiskan O Shar Shebashuk. So a person cannot again prepay for produce before the market price in the market. Armali Rav Zer Rav Asi Omer Rav Yochanan Afilu Ki Dormus Hazeh. Even when we're dealing with this dormus, such as an iltis rav gadol, very large market. Armalei loyim Rav Yochanan el b'shuk shel ayaris. Rav Yochanan's statement was only referring to a market in which is somewhat small because it's of cities. Deloy kivia taryahu, because the price is subject to change. Uloman that salak adaitin mikara. So what was your havim in Rav Yochanan afilu kid dormus hazeh? That was even referring to a large market. It's elomastis in the katani in place kanal paris. Actually, it says shar when the Mishnah says that you're not able to collect or prepay for items that before the market price has been established. Yotza shar poiskin. Hechi mishkachasla. Where do we find masnisin bechiti diakalbi ve'arbi demoshuch tarai. If you're dealing with boats that deliver from goods from many farmers, so therefore the prices remain more fixed, and therefore it's not a problem. Tanabon. Ein poiskin al paris ad sheitzi ashar. Yotza ashar poiskin. As we say, that once the market price has been established, then you could prepay. That's what the Mishnah said. Hayu chadashais mi'ar. But let's say you have new from 4, the Yeshanais Mishalish, and you have old ones from 3, in Paiskin, so that you can't prepay. It has to be a new market price for both. Let's say you gather 4 per sella, and everyone else 3. In Paiskin, it has to be a set amount for the gatherer and for the seller. Rav Nachman Paiskin lakutois kishar halakutois, that you able to prepay for the value of the lakutois. Amli Rav Nachman Maishna loikete ilay. If he doesn't have Yosef milakut chavre, so you can always get from someone else. So Baal Bayis nami Yosef milakut, you could do the same thing. Amli says no. Baal Bayis is not going to do that. Baal Bayis zilabi mil says degrading. And therefore it's different when it comes to a Baal Bayis. Who's the one who would give money to a Baal Bayis? A peri shapiri yoyev. He's expecting only refined produce. That you cannot borrow again against the marketplace. Some say it was Rav Yosef bar Abu Rav Sheshes, Mir Rav Huna, does he say this? Well, boy, meaning Rav Huna, Hanibane Beirav, Diyasve Betishrei, Pari Beteves, Shari O Aser. So he asked, are these people that borrow in 1 month and pay back another, is that allowed? Armalahu, Hachite Behini, Vahachiti Beshili. We said that there was wheat here and wheat there, so therefore they could still get to it. Therefore it's mutter. Boy Zamni Parle, if you want, they could have sold it and paid it back mikara. So Sabra Huna ein loivin kivon de shemel hadam diam Rav Shimon bar Chia Rav Elazar loivin ihu nabi loivin. Okay, let's look at Rashi. In loivin al shar shebashuk ani shemati ani. What does that mean? Ein loivin mois b'derech halva. You can't lend it as a loan. Al manas, on condition sheim lo shalmacha mois. If you don't pay me after a certain amount of time, then I'm going to be able to take from you fruit based on the current price. Normally business transactions we allow it. We're more lenient, we're more strict when it comes to a loan. You can't lend out a saw and get back the same amount of saw because again of the price fluctuations. Al smach shar shebashuk. The nema hoy v'chiti behini v'chiti b'shili havile ka'ad sheyavo b'ni o ad she'emsu mafteach. Okay, let's look at a couple more questions. We're going to stop there. All right, let's look at question 9. Be'elu ufanim muter lisoik al peros. Under these circumstances, a person is allowed to prepay back for fruits. Hainu loses mois almanas akabel peros achar zman. You'll get fruit for a later time. 2 answers. Either biyatza hashar, as we said, if there's an established market price, or kshesh lo peros. So we said if he has fruits, so then it's not a problem. As long as he had, even if in lezeh, yesh lezeh, then that's also enough. Okay. Question TA 29. Madua motor litain moish shel yain b'tishrei. Why are you allowed to give money of wine in Tishrei without a market price? Lo yatsa shar. V'likach yain b'teves, and to get wine later on. Hari nisker b'zeh she'im haya noitel b'tishrei shema haya machmetz. It may turn into vinegar. V'glal hakademis hamois kibel hamoicher achrayis litin yain masukin. So he says, ki nosen domim al yain v'al chaymetz. Okay, I'm not sure if we did this yet, so let's just stop that with that. And question TB30. A place al peros yimuter l'kabel b'shar nesinas hamekach matanam me'es hamoicher medaitu below tanai. So I just wrote im yish shar kavua as mutter below shar za'aser, which kind of not necessarily is the right answer, but hopefully we'll see this more in tomorrow's daf.